I grew up in the eastern part of North Carolina in a little small farm community called Kenley or Beulah Township. And back in those days, the farmers all drove to town on Saturday with their mules and wagons and to pick up their staples and that sort of thing that they needed to survive until the next trip they made to town. That area was known as the tobacco and cotton industry of the Southeast. That meant it had a lot of cotton fields and a lot of tobacco fields. I wasn't very good at either one of them. And I went in the field one day pulling a burlap bag and a strap. Not a big guy, but just worked extremely hard in my opinion. And my goal was to pick 100 pounds of cotton. So when I weighed out that afternoon, I had under 70 pounds. And I said then, Lord, if you just let me find something else to do, I have picked my last bowl of cotton. And I wasn't too happy with burning tobacco either, because it was a very dirty work, and second, normally hot and very boring. So being a young guy and seeing a lot of movies involving soldiers and this kind of thing, I decided that I was going to try to get into the Army. And I did, and I won't tell you my age, but I'm not going to explain it in any more detail. You just have to figure it from there. Anyway, that day after weighing out, I made a decision that I was going in the Army. And at age 15, I entered the military, Army, took basic training at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. And following that, I was assigned overseas to Japan, a little town south of Tokyo and Yokohama called Yokosuka Naval Base. We were outside of that area, Camp McGill. And being a young guy and gung-ho, I kept my shoes more than polished and that sort of thing, and began to think that's all there was to it. Took training, and that sort of thing. And then one day, someone asked me, said, did you hear about Korea? Well, I was the smartest guy in the world, and I'm still not. But I said, no, do you eat that with bread or something? But anyway, he explained that North Korea had invaded South Korea. But trust me, and I've told JW this, about 3 weeks later, 2 to 3 weeks later, I knew exactly what it was. And at that time, I celebrated my 16th birthday in Japan. And we boarded ship in Yokosuka, troop transport, and we made an amphibious landing in a place called Daejeon, South Korea. And that was my first exposure to combat, and believe it or not, the first day I was ready to go home. But